Hey guys, Ranger here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another reaction and review. And this is to the 19th episode of MLP, which is Dragon Dropped. Now, first off, a couple things that I want to say. First off, I apologize that I missed the Monday and Wednesday upload. Unfortunately, I was busy with work and wasn't able to do the videos like I wanted to. One day, I was off Tuesday night. I was off Tuesday night, but unfortunately I was just so tired I wasn't able to do a video for Wednesday, so I really apologize for that. And I didn't have a video for Monday, so I really apologize that I missed the Monday and Wednesday upload. Second thing you'll notice is leaning further back. That's because I got a new chair, a new office chair. I kept my old one, but I got a new office chair now, so this one doesn't. This one goes back and forth a bit more easy than the other one did. So yeah, but let's go ahead and get into this episode. And before anyone happens to question, yo, where's other videos such as Initial D, etc., or other videos, I'm going to be getting those. Don't worry. Unfortunately, like I said, I've been busy with work, but the good news is that it's calm down now, so let's dive in. Start video in 3, 2, 1. Wait, sorry. 3, 2, 1, play.
Oh, Spike! Are you in here? Hello?
Cute.
Spike?
Yes, honey.
There you are. I was starting to think you weren't here. I realize this is last minute, but I've decided on a quick trip to the gem cave. I am on an urgent mission to find some faceted iridescence for my new design. And I can't think of any pony I'd rather have along than my favorite basket holder slash bodyguard, Spike.
Duck face Rarity.
Spike? Spike!
What? Oh, hey, Rarity.
Honestly, Spike, it's almost as if you haven't been listening.
Oh, of course I was, but just to be sure, could you say it all again?
I was saying that I planned on visiting the gem cave.
Oh no! Is that the time?
Of course you're right. This is a bit of a late start, and those gems won't pick themselves.
Okay. This is definitely a Spike and Rarity kind of ship episode.
The smaller one, right?
Oh, right. Sorry, Rarity. Can I take a rain check on... What was that again?
Oh, dang!
Gem cave?
Right. Sounds great. But I need to get to the post office before noon.
All right, very funny. Obviously, you'll get the mega basket, and I should...
Where'd he go?
Spike? Hello?
Okay, this is a Rarity and Spike focused episode, which is interesting because we haven't really had a whole lot of development with Spike and Rarity as a couple or anything like that. But this is a very interesting episode already in how it's playing out. I love what Rarity has already done with Spike, her interaction with him. It was cute, but it was definitely flirty. And And I figure she probably just did it because he's, younger than her. But
I don't understand. For as long as we've known each other, Spike has never turned down an opportunity to join me here. It's his favorite place. Ideally, you catch the gems, dear. And for a trip to the post office of all places. Maybe you should move closer. And why would Spike need to go to the post office at all? He sends mail by breathing. Breathing, darling. Breath mail. Honestly, Applejack, if you're going to fill in, you could make an attempt to hold the basket the way Spike would.
And how's that?
Well, for one thing, Spike knows how to keep things quiet so as not to waken the bats.
oh crap!
And he usually pulls me closely so no gem ever touches the ground.
Rarity, Spike's been following you closely since he got to Ponyville. And in case you hadn't noticed, I ain't Spike!
Hi, Rarity. What's up?
Jeez!
Besides my mane? Well, that is a question for Spike.
Oh,
What?
well, Spike isn't here. I think he's at the post office.
Yeah?
Again? What is it with Spike and the post office?
Rarity, what's going on?
Spike declined my invitation to the gem cave, and I intend to find out why.
That doesn't sound like Spike. Did you two have some sort of fight?
No.
A fight? Goodness, Twilight, what in Equestria would we fight about?
I've had arguments with friends before, and they can put a real strain on friendships.
Well, certainly. But I think I'd remember if we had an argument.
Maybe you didn't realize it? Do you think you could have done something that unintentionally hurt his feelings?
What if I didn't realize what I did? How would I know what I have done when I did it? I wonder if that's it. It certainly would explain his behavior. I must apologize.
For
For
what?
what?
Oh, that's hardly the point. Poor Spikey Wikey.
Uh,
For a grand gesture.
Rare?
Okay, good talk.
Derpy! Derpy derp. What on earth? Derpy's like, nope, I ain't dealing with this!
Stop your mailing. I'm not mailing it.
Then why are you pushing it into the post office?
Oh, I didn't realize Griffins worked at the Ponyville post office.
Oh, no, I don't work here exactly. I'm the official mail carrier of Griffinstone.
Oh,
Gabby
neat.
Griffin. Nice to meet ya.
Neat.
Yes, well, these things aren't for sending. They're for apologizing to Spike.
Oh, Spike was just here. He went to go make us
That's perfect. It'll give me a chance to practice. You stand there and tell me.
I've also noticed there's a lot more of ponies standing on their hind
What are you
legs in this
apologizing
episode,
for?
and I love it.
Really, I don't see why that matters.
Oh!
And that is why I simply cannot bear the thought of having hurt you. And even though I don't know what it is that I did, I want you to know that it doesn't matter. Because I am prepared to do anything to make it right. And scene. Oh, sorry, dear.
Rarity?
That sure sounds genuine. Well, of course it sounds genuine. It is genuine.
I think?
What are you doing?
Obviously, I'm working on my apology to you, Spike. I don't know how I could be more genuine. I mean, Spike! Oh, Spike! I am so sorry. Please forgive me. You have to forgive me. I don't know what I did or why you are mad at me. Just please say you forgive me. Please.
He's not mad.
Of course I forgive you, but, what are you apologizing for?
Why does every pony keep harping on that? Wait, don't you know?
No, I'm not mad at you about anything.
But I don't understand. If you're not upset with me, why in Equestria would you refuse to go to the gem cave?
Because I had other plans?
Uh-oh. Oh, boy! I did not see that one coming.
You two know each other?
Gabby and I are sort of pen pals.
Yeah! There was this whole thing where I pretended to get a cutie mark because Griffins don't get cutie marks, so Princess Twilight had Spike send a bunch of letters off to Griffinstone about the first Griffin ever to get a cutie mark, which I really didn't have.
Gabby wrote back explaining things, and after that we just started writing back and forth.
Turns out we have a lot in common. We both come from cultures that don't have the friendliest of reputations.
And we're both in the message-sending business.
Uh-huh. I sure wish I could send scrolls with my breath.
Oh, you're jealous.
Yes. Now I understand why you didn't come to the gem cave. Having a friend in town is a rare treat. Look, since you're busy today, maybe we can do something tomorrow. Fabric shopping? I know how you love to pick out the colors.
Actually, now that there's a Griffin at Twilight School, Gabby's here all the time.
Grandpa Gruff asked for a lot of updates about how Gallus is doing. Speaking of which, I better get going.
I'll fly with you.
Well, all right, you two fly along. I'm sure Spike and I can do something some other...
Oh.
time?
Ow. I really feel sorry for Rarity. I really do.
I cannot decide which shade of purple is the most royal.
It looks like one on the
And there's the
left.
pink. How will I ever choose?
Rainbow.
Too bad Spike's not here. I bet he could help you narrow it down.
He is a good sounding board, isn't he?
Ow. Oh. Flashback. Okay. You're not gonna. She's going to. Rarity? You're a unicorn. You can. Ow. Hey, Lyra and Bonbon. Well, I guess the ship sailed to a degree. Okay. I see two different things going on with this. One is... One is maybe looking at the concept of Rarity.
Could you bring the pincushion a little closer, dear? I suppose now that Spike's always so busy with Gabby. I'm just now
Fluttershy?
realizing how much his presence has meant to me over the years.
Fluttershy?
Even closer, darling. I don't want to prick you. I have to admit, everything feels a bit less than
Or is it
without
Opal?
him. Too close!
Flutters.
Oh, darling, it's no use. Thank you for trying. I'm just accustomed to the help of a small, highly attentive dragon.
Maybe you should let Spike know how grateful you are for everything he's done for you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's one of those things where Rarity wasn't really... didn't really know what she had until it was no longer there. Now she realizes how appreciative that she was of Spike. Oh, dang!
I'm sorry, Spike. I didn't mean to frighten you.
Rarity, what are you doing here?
Dude!
Well, I realized...
You pined for her for so long, and here she is standing...
And I just couldn't wait to share it. The great gem crevasse of the Crystal Mountains.
in your bedroom at night.
Whoa.
It is only accessible once a year, and I thought a little day trip would make a wonderful thank you for
Sitting
all
on your
you've
bed!
given me over the years.
And you're gonna pass this up?
But I'm supposed to meet Gabby today for her rounds.
Okay, I'm sorry. He's a gentleman. I would be too.
There's always next year.
I would wonder what she was on.
You know what? I'll just write her a note.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
You're gonna invite her, aren't you? The Doctor and Rose look. Oh.
Wow. Rarity, you weren't kidding. The gem crevasse was amazing. I'll be snacking on these for a week.
What did I tell you?
Hey, Spike!
Gabby, you won't believe where I went today.
Actually, I think I will. I got your scroll. The Great Gem Crevasse sounds a lot better than doing my rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa! It was definitely better. I gotta get back to Griffinstone, but you have to tell me all about the crevasse tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Rarity. What a great day.
Okay, start from the beginning, because I want to hear everything.
Well, to get to the crevasse, you have to climb across a rope bridge because the air's too thin to fly.
That is amazing!
Watch out! Ow.
Sorry, Rarity.
Oh, no apology necessary, Spike. In fact, I was just looking for you.
You were? Why?
Because
Now what do you have
I
planned?
just acquired these.
Passes to Power Pony Palooza for today?
Say what now?
Just went to the crevasse, but I feel I've barely scratched
Power
the
Pony
surface of
Palooza.
expressing my gratitude for all you do.
Well, of course I
I felt like a mix
that'll
between
be 2 days in a row we haven't
BronyCon
hung out.
and BronyPalooza.
Are you kidding? It's Power Pony Palooza. You have to go. And now you'll have 2 things to tell me about.
Okay, come on, Rarity, let's go.
And Gabby's feeling left out.
Whew, my claw's sore.
Indeed. I have no idea how much walking there is at a Power Pony convention.
Was this a bit of a reference to BronyCon?
I might need the whole day to rest.
Ooh, I know what you mean. Perhaps you could just send her another note.
Power Pony Convention. Yeah,
I think maybe
Brony
you're right.
yeah, MLP
Honestly,
Convention.
I might need to spend tomorrow putting my hopes up as well.
Rarity.
I hadn't counted on Power Pony Palooza being quite so draining, but I thought we might spend the day recuperating together.
No way. Ogres and oubliettes?
Well, I know how much you enjoy it, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity for you to teach me the game.
Spike, I got your note. I figured I'd come by before my rounds with a bowl of energizing turnip soup.
Can Princess Rarity use her shield of the coiffure to defend herself from the purveyor of poor color coordination?
She can try. Success! Schmerity's shield holds against the green-eyed monster's attack. And that...
Spike?
Oh, hi, Gabby. We were
Your
just...
scroll said you were too tired to do anything today. But I guess you were just too tired to do anything with me.
No, that's not true. I can come with you on your rounds right now.
I don't think so, Spike. Maybe I'll just handle the rounds on my own from now on.
Ooh! Princess Schmarity uses her prismatic beam to change that poor monster's color to a more pleasing shade of purple! What do you think, Spike? Solids or prints?
Prince, I guess. You already have a lot of solid colors.
Oh, you're so right. Prince it is. So nice to have you back, Spike. Although, I hope you're able to reconcile with Gabby.
I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to.
I quite enjoyed our day together, Spike.
Yeah.
Hi, Spike.
I've never seen Spike this sad before. Do you know what happened?
Yes, well, perhaps he's still just tired from Power Pony Palooza.
I don't think that's it.
I suppose it's possible it could have something to do with Gabby not wanting to spend time with him anymore.
What? I thought the two of them were hanging out all the time.
They were! Honestly, it took everything I had to convince him to spend any time with me at all. But between Crystal Gem crevasses, Power Pony conventions, and a marathon game of O&O, I managed to get some time in.
It sounds like you made sure he didn't have any time to spend with Gabby at all.
What? I certainly did not. Well, I suppose I may have monopolized him a teeny bit. I've just grown so used to having Spiky Wikey around. I wasn't prepared for how much I'd miss him when he wasn't.
Friendships change, but just because Spike made a new friend doesn't mean he stops being yours.
I know, but now I have to share him. Which I suppose I'll have to get used to. Right after I fix this mess I've made.
Good talk.
Hey, Derp.
Rarity?
Rarity!
All this stuff for Spike again? Wouldn't it be easier to just give it to him? And why are you even here?
I am here to apologize, actually. More to confess. And all of this stuff isn't for Spike. It's the evidence against me.
Evidence? For what?
For my acts of utter selfishness.
I don't understand.
That's what I was going to say. She was
These are the items I
a little
used to
before.
lure Spike into spending as much time with me as possible.
They are? You did?
Rarity, what are you doing?
Well, obviously I'm apologizing to Gabby so the two of you can renew your friendship, Spike. Now please, even if you can't forgive me, you simply must forgive Spike! Oh, I actually owe you an apology too.
You apologize a lot.
I wish I didn't need to, but the more time you two spent together, the more I missed my time with Spike, and the more I used every means at my disposal to
You
get
got
it
jealous.
back. I am
And became
truly
selfish.
sorry.
You really miss spending time with me?
Oh, of course.
I have to say, after not hanging out with you, I understand why. You're kind of awesome. And I know what it's like to miss that now, too.
So, do you think maybe we could start hanging out again?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't suppose you'd like some company on your rounds right now.
I sure would.
Wonderful. I can't tell you how pleased I am that the two of you have reconciled. I suppose Twilight is right. Friendships do change. Of course, Spike and I will always be friends, and I can get used to sharing him.
Pinky.
Sorry, I just didn't want to drop another one and wake the bats.
Darling, catching the gems is what the basket is for.
Wow, you two need to be a lot quieter.
Spike! How wonderful to see you!
Shh.
Yeah, Gabby and I had a great day, but I'll always still want my Rarity time.
Oh, so that's how it works.
All right. I really did enjoy this episode. I really did. Honestly, I really did enjoy it. This was a very sweet episode. And it was also a realistic episode. It was both a sweet episode and a heartfelt episode. And I know that some people in the fandom would say that Rarity was completely selfish in wanting to hog Spike all to herself. And while that's true, I've been in this fandom long enough to speculate that there are going to be some people that are going to nitpick this into oblivion and say that Rarity was that this was a backstep episode for her, or that this was a episode that didn't really paint her in a good light. And she's supposed to be the elegant, regal one, and I understand that, but I don't also believe in holding the characters to, or really anyone, to a specific standard and expecting them to adhere to that all the time, because it's kind of a mistake on our part. But Rarity was selfish here. She became selfish of Spike hanging out with Gabby, and honestly, I can totally understand this situation here. Personally, I haven't exactly been in this type of situation before, and I honestly hope that I'm never in this kind of situation. But basically, Rarity was in a situation, in a position where before she had Spike. Spike had pined over her for a long time, and she kind of got used. She got used to having Spike around all the time. She relied on his insight, on how he helped her. She got used to that, and then suddenly she found herself in a situation where she had to share Spike. And as a result, she became jealous. She wasn't willing to share him. She wanted him all to herself. And honestly, I'm not going to say that this is a bad thing. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I know some people would say that it is a bad thing, but I also kind of don't really think it is a bad thing. I guess it really just depends on how that you do it, how that you use it. And I can't honestly fault Rarity whatsoever for being jealous and for wanting to just hog Spike all to herself. I honestly can't fault her for that, because I know in reality there have been times before where someone else ended up in a situation where they maybe made another friend, and they ended up kind of hanging out with the other person, and someone became jealous. And Rarity was used to having Spike around, and I wasn't really certain what the type of story that they were going with here was, but there is one clear story that you could take from this in Rarity's how she felt with Spike. There's a couple of different ways that you could look at it, a couple of different morals that you could look at. The first is what was said here at the end of the episode, in that Rarity basically Rarity was used to having Spike around all the time. She relied on his expertise and his insight on different things, and she was just used to his companionship. However, Spike ended up getting a friend also in Gabby, and Gabby was more Spike's age. As such, as well, they had more in common, and so they began to hang out more. And realistically, Rarity, you could look at it and say Rarity kind of more used Spike, whereas Gabby did make an effort to be more of a friend to him. But I don't want to completely say that about Rarity, as saying it that way makes her sound bad. So I don't want to say it that way. But you could look at it and say that she did kind of maybe use him a little bit, kind of take advantage of him. But no, Rarity really did respect Spike, and she really did care about him. But Spike pined over Rarity romantically. Rarity never really gave an inkling about having any romantic feelings towards Spike, or at least not plainly. But she did kind of, like in this episode, I wouldn't exactly say flirted with him, but more of took advantage of her feminine charm to kind of lure Spike to hanging out with her. But Rarity was used to having Spike around, and so suddenly whenever he started hanging out with Gabby, she became aware of his absence, and she started suffering from that. She started suffering a little bit of loneliness. She started missing him, and she said that she didn't realize how much she would miss him whenever he wasn't around as much. And so this, you could chalk the story up to being a reference, or basically highlighting that, saying you don't realize how much you miss it until it's gone, or you never realize how much you miss it until it's gone. And so here, Rarity didn't really think about it. She didn't really think about how much she appreciated Spike's help, how much she appreciated his companionship, until it wasn't there anymore. Then she became aware of it. Now, the second thing, and this is harder for me to analyze, not in terms of the difficulty of analyzing it, but it's harder for me to actually say, in that you could also look at this as a reference to the concept of again, this is kind of painful for me to say. Not because I've been, this is difficult for me to say. And it's not something that I'm comfortable with saying. And it's not something that I'm comfortable with saying. But I have to, because as a reviewer, I have to say this. I have to say what's on my mind. You could look at this episode as a reference either to a relationship or to a friendship about moving on. And relationship-wise, it was unrequited love. Spike, now this is another way that you could look at it. Spike pined over Rarity. Rarity did not return his affection. And Rarity, it was a one-sided relationship. Spike finally ready to move on, and so he did. He found Gabby. He found Gabby. He moved on. Then Rarity suddenly missed Spike pining for her, and so she wanted him to pine for her again. But it didn't really happen. It didn't really happen. She realized that pretty much that now she either had to share him or, you know, she missed her chance. And Spike has found somebody else. And so he's moved on. And so now she has to. She has to let that go. And it also works with a friendship too. You know, with a one-sided friendship where one person, Spike in this case, is putting forth the effort in a friendship. But Rarity is more, you know, a friendship and a relationship is give and take. You both give, you both take. But whenever just one gives and the other takes, but the other doesn't give, it's one-sided. Here, Spike was the one giving. Rarity was just taking. She was barely giving. And so finally Spike decided he wanted kind of out of that, you know. And so he found a friendship in Gabby, someone who was giving back as well, equally. And so because of that, he began to move on. And again, and Rarity realized how much she missed that, but it was kind of too late. And that's the second way that I can look at it. And, you know, I don't know if the writers intended for that possibly to be a hidden metaphor within this episode, for it to be friendship or relationship-wise. I don't know. I don't want to believe that that was put in there. That is just my mind that sees that. But that's one way that you could interpret it. But on the surface, what we see basically, Spike did develop a friendship with Gabby. Rarity became jealous. As such, Rarity wanted to try to hang on to Spike. And she was kind of used to Spike being excited to hang out with her every chance that he got. And so Rarity went through a kind of a similar thing here that I have seen people do before. And I'm not going to say whatsoever that I'm not guilty of it myself. I think a lot of us are guilty of it. It's not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I like to admit. But it's whenever Rarity ended up dragging along Applejack, she dragged along Applejack and Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy into her little venture, her little outing, because she was trying to replace Spike. And this is something psychologically that I have seen people do in real life. And like I said, I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of it. I think there are a good portion of us that are guilty of this, but someone ends up turning their back on you, or suddenly that someone is gone. You want to try to suddenly replace it as quickly as possible. And so Rarity dragged Applejack into this, as well as Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, because she wanted to try to, there was suddenly a hole, a void inside of her that she wanted filled as fast as possible. And she didn't want to continue to feel that suffering, so she wanted to try to feel it as fast as possible. And I think a lot of us do that. And I've seen this situation play out in real life. Like, for example, someone I've seen people do this. Like if a pet dies, some people will go out the very next day and try to find another pet immediately to replace that one, or not replace it, but just to try to fill that void, try to fill that hole. And if they go through a breakup, they'll get out there like as soon as they can, and they'll start dating because they're desperate to try to fill that hole. They're not exactly trying to find a replacement. I did say a replacement, and for some people that is their intention, but not so for others. So it works both ways. But some people are guilty of that, trying to fill that void. And I think that it's not just with that. Some people, they go through something like that, they begin busying themselves to try to keep their minds off of it, to try to keep them occupied, because they're trying to fill that. And I have seen that scenario play out. And like I said, I'm guilty of doing that very thing myself. Like whenever, there has been some times whenever my other cat passed away, and it hurt, but I ended up kind of just busying myself with work because I was trying to, I guess, it was my way of processing it. This was kind of Rarity's way of processing it, and I'm not condoning this behavior of trying to jump right into something else to try to replace it, or not replace it, but just trying to fill that hole. I'm not honestly condoning this because I know some of us are guilty of it. I'm not condoning it because it's not exactly a good thing. It can be dangerous. And Rarity also thought at one point that maybe she had upset Spike. She had maybe unintentionally hurt his feelings, so she apologized to Spike. And then Rarity found out that it was Gabby and Spike that were hanging out, and it began to upset Rarity because she began to see the connection that that Spike and Gabby had. There was a mix of emotion for Rarity. She was angry, but she was also hurt. And again, I'm not going to say whatsoever that I haven't been in this situation before. I know some of us have. And it's difficult. It is. Like, you have a friend or you have someone really close to you, and then they begin hanging out with someone else. You feel left behind. I feel bad for Rarity in this because I know that feel. I have been in that situation before. And I know some of you have been in that situation before too. A feeling of being left behind, where you have, like I said, you have a friend, someone really close to you, someone that you rely on, you count on, and then suddenly they begin to hang out with someone else. And realistically, yes, I understand that, all three can be friends. I understand that, but still, it doesn't help because it doesn't help that sometimes we want to be selfish. I'm guilty of it. We want to be selfish, and we just kind of want to be the only person in that friend's life, And so, whenever we feel like we have to share, we get selfish. And I've been in that situation before, so I understand that with Rarity. She felt hurt. She felt left behind. She felt like Spike had kind of, I guess, betrayed her. But she also felt angry because Gabby suddenly came into the picture. And I'm sure she also felt angry with Spike as well, because she wanted to be the gem in Spike's eye. But now he found somebody else, and so Rarity wanted to be the only gem. And again, I understand. I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of that. I've been in that situation before. I've been in that situation before with Rarity, of feeling of being left behind, and I'm not trying to uphold for Rarity. I'm not trying to justify Rarity's actions. I'm saying that this is realistic because I've been in that situation before. I'm guilty of the exact same thing, and I know other people are guilty of that same thing as well. And it kind of works for both ways, because sometimes some of us have been in Rarity's shoes, that we found ourselves taking a back seat to someone else who suddenly came into our friend's life, and someone close to us. Suddenly, we were having to share them. And we were concerned that, what if they become closer than we were, and we lose our friend? What if we suddenly lose them completely? It hurts. It freaking hurts to feel like you're nothing, and you can't help. Sometimes, for some of us, we begin to think, was I not a good friend? How could I have been a better friend? If I could have been a better friend, would this have happened? Maybe this wouldn't be happening. But we've also been in that situation before, I'm sure, where I know others have been in that situation before too, where maybe you start conversing with someone else, you start hanging out with them, and you don't think about the other friend. You don't think about how it makes them feel. So it's difficult. It's kind of a difficult thing. It's taking a simple two-way street, and you're adding a third route to it. And so then you have to try to find a balance so that all three can traverse that road without a collision. And it can be difficult. And so Rarity was jealous, and I don't blame her for that. But Spike honestly was, I gotta say, Spike really was mature in this episode, because he was very calm and laid back. He had no idea that Rarity was trying to hog him to herself. He had no idea about what was going on. He was completely oblivious to it until the very end. And this kind of felt a bit like a relationship-based episode whenever Gabby found Spike and Rarity just hanging out right there. And Gabby felt betrayed. And here, Gabby began to feel the exact same way. She began to feel the exact same way as Rarity did. She felt left behind. She felt tossed aside. And so it affected her. And Rarity, honestly, at this point, in the episode, Rarity was proud of herself because she got Spike back, even though she hurt someone else. And I'm not going to say that what Rarity did here was right or was justified. Rarity feeling jealous, her feeling upset, that's natural. But and I know some other people have been in that situation before where they did try to get a friend to hang out more, so that they were trying to basically, I guess, trying to bribe them to a degree. But Rarity, she ended up hurting Gabby, but she didn't honestly care. And I'm not going to say whatsoever that was good on Rarity's part. It wasn't. Rarity did make a mistake there. What she did was bad, yes. She did make a very big mistake, and she didn't have any respect for Gabby at first. She did not care that Gabby was upset. And at first, Rarity didn't actually care that Spike was upset, that he was hurt, because Rarity was just focusing on herself at that time. But then Twilight was able to help Rarity realize what Rarity really had done, and Rarity finally saw the weight of the situation. And honestly, this was a mature moment for Rarity. This was honestly a moment of maturity for her whenever she realized what happened, and she realized that she needed to take a stand, and she needed to do something. So she went back to apologize to Gabby, and she explained to Gabby the scenario, what happened, and her trying to bribe Spike, and she also apologized to Spike as well. So she apologized to both. She apologized to both of them, and there was a moment of honest realization here, because Gabby understood, and it actually worked out on that part, because Gabby began to feel left out because of what Rarity was doing. Gabby also began to understand the feeling of hurt and the feeling of being left out, the feeling of taking a back seat to it, because she really enjoyed hanging out with Spike, and so she understood the jealousy and the anger that Rarity felt. And so whenever Rarity confessed that she had felt jealous and upset and hurt and left out in the cold, Gabby understood. And there was a mutual understanding between the two, to which they realized that they kind of needed to share Spike. And there was the moral here of this episode was basically that friendships can change, in that, you know, another friend can come along, but it doesn't mean that you're not any less of a friend. It doesn't mean that you're any less of a friend, and it doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't still be friends. It just basically means a balance. It just means sharing. And I did not. I hate the concept. I do. I despise, I loathe, I fear the idea of a friendship falling apart. I've had it happen to me before in my life, and I cannot bear the thought of it. And I did not want that to be the moral of this episode, is that sometimes friendships change and there's nothing you can do about it. I did not want that to be the moral. I didn't. But I'm glad that it wasn't. Spike and Rarity were able to reconcile, and there was a reconcile between Gabby and Spike as well. There was a mutual understanding between all three. And this is something else. I mean, this is very much realistic, in that, you know, you can have two people who are friends, and then a third person can come along, and all three people can still be friends. It doesn't mean that the first two people are less friends. It just means that, you know, you have to make a balance. And there's a similarity to a degree in other things that you will take on in your life. Maybe you take on a new job, you take on a new hobby. You know, you end up, it's a balance. If you take on a new hobby, you end up spending time with that hobby, but you also try to dedicate time to your other hobbies. If you take on a new job or something, you know, you'll try to balance your personal life out, so you'll have time for that. And so that's kind of what's basically going on here, is they're, you know, they understand each other, and which is great. You know, that understanding, that mutual honest trust is a good thing, and understanding and truth. But they understand each other, and so they were able to reconcile between them, work together, and so they're going to start sharing. This moment of Rarity back in the cave, saying that she has to learn to accept Spike. It's something that she does have to kind of accept and understand, is Spike is still her little junior assistant. He's still her friend. He's also got another friend as well that he's also going to be hanging out with. So they have to balance it. And she has to trust Spike, she has to trust Gabby, and she has to try not to be jealous, because jealousy can lead to, well, becoming Nightmare Moon. Jealousy can lead to, could lead to the downfall of a friendship, and it almost did. Rarity's jealousy almost, I mean, it hurt Spike and Gabby, and it also hurt Spike. And that selfishness, I think it's so, yeah, I would say I think it's okay to be a little selfish in a friendship, in a relationship. I think it's totally fine to be a little selfish, but not selfish to the degree that it's going to hurt the person that you're selfish over. Whenever that happens, that's whenever you're too selfish. But Rarity did mature in this. It was a moment of growth for her, and that she understood and she learned from her mistake. She learned about this, and she learned that Spike is still a part of her life. And at the very end of the episode, Spike comes back, and they hug, and they realize, Rarity feels comfortable now knowing that Spike is still there for her. And Spike wants to be there for her. I mean, he's still going to spend time with Gabby because he loves it. She loves spending time with him. But Rarity is also going to be, he's also going to be spending time with Rarity as well. And another part of the episode was learning to, being appreciative of what you have, because at some point you may not have it. If you're not careful and you completely neglect it, or you don't take into to consideration how much you appreciate it, you'll lose it. And so that was another thing that Rarity learned, was to appreciate having Spike near and that friendship there. And so this episode was very interesting. This was a bit of a difficult episode for me personally to watch due to what was developing between them, because I could totally understand Rarity's situation, and I could totally see it, but I could also understand Gabby and Spike as well. But yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. I really did. It's not one of my most favorite episodes, of the season or of the series. Not because I think it's a dull episode or anything like that, but simply because it's just not one of my most favorite episodes, but it is still a really good episode. I really honestly enjoyed it. And it was great to further the development again between Rarity and Spike. And it was also great to see Spike and Gabby hanging out too. That was also really fun. And I really enjoyed the maturity that they showed with Spike in this episode, to show the duties and the responsibilities that he had in the beginning of the episode. Him writing to Gabby, trying to get to the post office, and him being mature enough to, at the end, he's still there for Rarity. I really enjoyed the maturity of Spike in this episode. And while Rarity's jealousy, I did not actually like whenever it hurt Gabby and Spike. I did not enjoy that particular segment, but I'm not going to say anything really negative against it, because I know realistically that has happened in real life. And so it was really just a moment of realism that actually played out. But the good thing is it did have a happy ending for all the characters, and it is realistic in how that it ended and how that it can be applied to real life. And so I really enjoyed it because of that. I think many of us in the Brony fandom know this, but there are many of us in the Brony fandom that we've got more than one friend. And I know that for some of us we have several friends, but a couple of them are closer than the others, and sometimes it can be easy to balance a friendship, but sometimes it can be difficult if you have more than one friend, especially more than one friend in the exact same area, that you're trying to hang out with. But I've seen, I think, a kind of a similar gimmick before in some other show, where someone else had to learn that, adding another friend to the group is okay, but friendship is important. It's friendship is an extremely rare and extremely treasured thing, and a little bit of selfishness, I think, is fine. Selfishness to the degree of hurting the person that you're selfish over is a bad thing. Not wanting to share them, I think, to a degree, is fine as well. But again, not wanting them to have any interactions with other people because you're selfish, that's kind of taking it too far. But it really comes down to understanding, trust, and honesty, and care for one another, and wanting that friendship to work out, and the willingness and dedication to make it work, to stick it out, to stick together. And that's the thing about Rarity and Spike and Gabby at the end of it. You know, they were all, you know, Rarity and Spike, they stuck together. Gabby and Spike, they stuck together. And that's honestly, that just like real life, it's great. It honestly is. But going over a couple of the smaller aspects about this episode, it was cute because this episode honestly had more of the characters standing on their hind legs, which I thought was adorable. Also, I really enjoyed Applejack's outburst here. That, like, this was basically... Rarity just pushed her wrong button here completely. And this moment, of course, we got to see Derpy working at the post office again. But I loved this segment whenever Rarity brings in this big crate. Derpy sees it, and she just slams this door shut. Like, screw it, no freaking way, I'm not doing it, I'm out. Honestly, I love this moment. I love it because it's hilarious. It's hilarious and it's freaking true, okay? Like, it's freaking true. It's so freaking true. Like, working in retail, I don't work at the post office, but honestly, this is honestly hilarious. Derpy, like, nope, screw this, I'm out. Boom! Or like, lunch break, boom! Just slams the door. I know this feel because, like, working in retail, it can get hectic, very hectic. And I have experience as working as a courtesy clerk, and so that moment, whenever suddenly you got like 2 or 3 people come through with a freaking shopping cart full of crap. If there was a door, I would have done the same thing as Derpy. Otherwise, you just have to stand there and suffer and wish you had a gun so you could shoot yourself. But yeah, I know the feel of Derpy here. I relate to this girl so much here at this point. So yeah, I know that, and it was hilarious. Okay, I'm not going to deny I didn't notice these metal things at first on the top. I think those might be baking. They look like baking pans, like cupcake baking pans. But at first, whenever I first just noticed them just now, I thought they were giant Lego bricks. I did. And like I said earlier, here, Spike has the girl that he's pined for so long in his bedroom at night. And he's just casually sitting there like, yo. I think earlier Spike, this also does highlight the maturity of Spike, because earlier, you know, okay, realistically, a lesser guy would jump at the opportunity and jump the girl. But Spike is honestly a gentleman, and honestly, I can relate to Spike. I know I said earlier, why would you pass this up? That honestly was a joke. Because honestly, realistically, I wouldn't have done anything either. I wouldn't have. Like Spike, I would wonder... Actually, my first thought was, how did you get in my bedroom? Sorry, how did you get in my house? Unless the girl had a spare key. And then I would wonder, what time is it? What are you doing in my house at this time? What's wrong? Please don't tell me you ate some strange brownies, okay? Like, you're not high, right? Like, I honestly, like Spike, I wouldn't have done anything either. My thought would be Super Mario 64. I mean, Super Mario Kart 64. I got board games. We got Monopoly. You know, that would be my thought. Like, okay, I get a pizza. We'll watch YouTube. That would be my idea, okay? But, yeah. Honestly, like Spike, my thought would not have jumped to the concept of sex. It would not have. Mine would be... My first thought would have been confusion. Like, straight up confusion, wondering what the heck the girl was doing in my bedroom. How she got in my house, or in this, I guess, the castle. How she got into the bedroom without anybody else hearing. Why she's standing over top of me, over top of my bed. What did I do wrong? Am I dreaming? And what the heck is going down? Like, what the heck is just going on? What other universe did I travel through? Did I somehow go through a portal into the Twilight Zone or something? Should I be concerned? Is this the end of the world? Like, there will be many different thoughts going through my head. Sex would be the farthest thing from my mind. And lanyards with badges. 2 months ago, at the time of me doing this video, it is the morning of October 4th. At the time of me doing this video, it is the morning of October 4th. Exactly 2 months ago, at this time, at 5:20 a.m. in the morning, I was in the bed asleep in the hotel at the Baltimore Inner Plaza Hotel on Pratt Street. And Narrator 007 and myself were in the bed asleep, preparing, well, not preparing, but trying to get some sleep before the final day of BronyCon 2019. And at this point, 5:21 a.m., we were just like 2.5 hours away from whenever we were supposed to get up. And so, after attending BronyCon 2019, I know there are plenty of conventions. I know this. I know there are plenty of other conventions, not just MLP conventions. But having come back from BronyCon, and exactly 2 months ago, it was the final day. The final day of BronyCon had yet to begun. Yeah, lanyards and badges, and Rarity makes a mention about Power Pony Palooza. Yeah, this makes me totally think about BronyCon 2019. It totally does. It totally does make me think of that. And so, I know that, you know, there are other conventions, but again, I think if this could be just a slight possible reference to the MLP conventions. The Power Pony Palooza. Rarity's cosplaying. She's got her own cosplay here going. And Rarity's kind of like me here. You know, she's kind of like me because, you know, the posters and the books that I came back with, I didn't have a costume though. And the Spike also has the buttons on his hat. One of them has Twilight's one of them has Twilight's cutie mark on it. That's interesting. And Spike came back with flags and plushies, comic books, and just an abundance of stuff. I don't even want to know how much he spent. And they're still wearing the lanyards too. That's cool. Or the lanyards and badges too. That's cool. And also, it's funny, Rarity makes the mention that she didn't realize how much walking was involved at one of those conventions. I was at BronyCon 2019. I know how much walking was involved. Alright? I know how much walking was involved. I got so much exercise in those 5 days. It was amazing how much exercise that I got walking from the hotel to the convention center, walking around the convention center, walking back to the hotel. And then, yeah, like, that was just the thing. It was amazing how much walking you did. And here Rarity got to experience it. And she said she's probably going to need a day to recuperate from the whole ordeal. And sure enough, she comes back, like, the next day, that morning, she's still tired. Honestly, I can relate to that because getting back from BronyCon, it took a moment for everything to just sink in. But the problem is for me, like, where I had to work the next night, like, I was off Monday, and then got back about 12:30 a.m. Tuesday morning, and then I didn't really have much time to do anything, and then that next night, like, in less than 24 hours, and like 23 hours, like 22 hours, I had to be at work. So, yeah, I didn't really... It took me 5 days after coming back from the convention before I finally got a day off to finally just sit back and relax and just soak in everything that I had experienced at BronyCon. And also, I love little Twilight here. Like, she already had one couch that she had to deal with, and Rarity brings another one in. And Twilight just kind of falls back like, you know what? Screw it. These are part of my home now. I'm not moving these dang things. They're staying. I'll find somewhere to put them. I'm done. F it. I know I'm going to go take a Tylenol. That's probably what she thought. No, taking a Tylenol was probably what Derpy thought whenever she slammed that door. But yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. Story-wise, the episode was realistic. It was, I know, uneasy for some to watch. It was kind of uneasy for me to watch as well because I have been in the situation of Rarity before. I've been in that situation before of having some selfishness, and I have been in that situation before of being a little selfish. Actually, I think realistically, if you're in a relationship or a friendship, you're going to be a little selfish. So I don't really think that that's really something that's new. But I've also been in that situation with Rarity of feeling, and with Gabby of feeling left out, left behind, getting tossed aside. So, you know, I totally relate to that. But I really did enjoy this episode story-wise. It was interesting to see that particular thing play out. It was great to see Rarity and Spike getting more of a prominent fixture like that and highlighting more of them. And I think this was a good build for their friendship because they haven't really had anything like this in quite some time. So I think this was something good for them. I think for Rarity, it was a good eye-opening situation for her to see that, you know, Spike did have another friend, and so, you know, he was free to do that. But it was also eye-opening for her because she realized that Spike, she became aware of how appreciative that she was of his help, of him being there in her life, and then suddenly whenever he wasn't there, she felt lonely. She felt alone, and she missed him. And this was an eye-opening episode for her. Sorry, this was an eye-opening situation for her as well. For Spike, it was kind of a bit of an eye-opener at the end because he realized that Rarity did like hanging out with him. And so it was also a mature episode for Spike in terms of how that he was written, how that he handled the overall episode. It was also great to see Gabby return and see her and Spike hanging out and to see them, you know, they were, you know, they're pen pals, but they're also, close friends. It was also really great to see that. I really loved that. I can also relate to that as well. So it was really honestly great to see all that. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun episode, and it was honestly a sweet episode. But that are my personal thoughts regarding the episode. Again, let me know your thoughts and comments as well. But thanks again for joining me. Thanks again to everybody that did this episode, everybody that worked on this episode. Thank you all so much. Thanks again for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video that I do. Take care.